You guys remember these magazines? These were the same magazines that were in the video, How Long Can You Leave Stored Magazines? And I think we figured out it was 17 years that these magazines were left loaded. Now, a lot of the comments were asking, like, what do they look like inside after? So as soon as we get done with this, we're gonna head back to the shop and take these apart, as well as compare it to a new magazine. So we'll compare the spring, things like that. Take a closer look at the mag body, the feed lips, all that other stuff, but they work just fine. Now, another comment that we got was, number one, did they work after you did just that quick test? And yes, I did shoot these later in that afternoon and they worked fine, but I'm gonna demonstrate that now here in a moment. And then the other comment from a few people was, well, of course that SBR, you know, would run those fine. It's an overgassed gun or whatever, and it's not. But just to change it up a little bit, this is probably the closest mil-spec gun that I have. This is was a Colt 6920, and I shot out the barrel on that, so I did replace the barrel. This is a FN contract hard hammer forged barrel, and then it has a Centurion Arms M-Lock rail on it, but otherwise, and a low profile gas block obviously, but otherwise everything else is pretty much Colt as far as major components. I think the trigger is upgraded as well, but this is as close to mil-spec as I have, 16-inch mid-length gas, so we'll try that. Now, one test that I like to do for magazines to see if they function is just simply load one round in, see if it locks back, load 2 rounds in, see if it locks back, and then load 3 rounds in, see if it locks back, because a lot of times if we're going to have issues with magazines, it's going to be towards those last rounds when the spring potentially has less energy. So that's what we're just doing here. Let's see how it works. 1 locked back just fine. 2, 3 locked back just fine. 2 locked back just fine. Now that one didn't quite drop, and I know probably some people are going to ask, but I think it's probably just because I didn't press the mag catch down all the way. It appears that all of the magazines were dropping just fine as well. Now, the other comment that I found was funny is a lot of people were harping on my comment about 55 grain soft point ammunition, and obviously it's not the worst thing out there. However, that particular load is a old Federal TRU load, and it's not really optimized, you know, for modern duty use. So there's a lot better options out there as far as the bonded. A lot of people were asking like what my go-to was, and my go-to for general purpose is probably Federal 62 grain tack bonded. However, I also really like the Gold Dot 75 grain bonded round. That's a great SBR round and a general purpose round as well. Hornady makes some really good stuff as well, but the reality is if you have a choice in your ammunition and you can get a modern bonded round, that is going to perform far better than actually this same stuff here, this old 55 grain soft point. This is just kind of a mix of XM193 as well as some 55 grain soft point old duty ammo that I'm burning through, things like that. So let's see how these do. Working just fine. Let's go take a closer look.
So as you can see from the previous footage, obviously this is a couple days later because I got a little busy, but they ran just fine. Now let's take a closer look at them. I'm going to pull off the mag pulls. In case you didn't know, mag pull, yep, that's where they got their name. These little things right here, literally designed for pulling mags. So this first one, this is labeled number 1, and the feed lips look good. We're checking the feed lips, see if we can feel any creaking or any movement or anything like that. If we notice anything by basically putting pressure on the lip, when these welds break down, you'll actually feel like a little creak, 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 and I'm not seeing any of that. Everything looks good, everything ran fine. Now let's pop this one apart. All right, so we have our brand new, relatively new magazine taken apart, and you can see that the new magazine is maybe like a half coil longer. I don't even know if you can really see that very well from your perspective, but you can see this is the brand new magazine here, and this is the old magazine here. So we're talking like maybe a 1/4 inch difference. So even over time, being loaded for that long, it was not compressed. Now, the comment section, I didn't realize we had so many like spring engineers in our audience that were talking about like, it's not the compression that wears a spring, it's the back and forth. Okay, let's just talk about this for a second. Spring metal has a memory, okay? And has a certain level of elasticity or elastic, and these are literally terms that we'll use. But what causes a spring to have deviation is if we extend it beyond its tolerance or its spec. If a spring is designed to do this, and all of a sudden we pull it beyond this, we're going to rebend it, and it's going to kind of have a new memory, if you will, or it went beyond its elasticity. Likewise, if we were to over-compress a spring to where we start to bend it. So for example, I could take this spring and I could physically bend it like that, and now see how it stays like so, because I went kind of beyond that tolerance of this particular part of the spring. Now when we bend things, obviously that changes the temper of the metal as well, so we don't want to bend things, but that is where springs have issues. Now if it's within its working load, if you will, of let's just say AR mag spring is here at max and here to minimum. So long as that spring stays there, we're not going to have an issue. Now if we over compress it to where it gets beyond here, or if we pull it the other way and it stretches beyond there, that's when you're going to have issues. Now the AR spring is a pretty well designed part that it's even under full load, it's designed really, really well. All right, so we'll put them right on top of each other so you guys can see. And again, the new mag is just a little bit longer. I mean, like, it is not much at all that the new mag is. The new mag is just a little bit longer than the old mag. After all those years of service, loaded and compressed, we had just a slight deviation. Now, that could very easily be within the tolerance of the spring as well. Another angle comparing the old 3 springs followers and the new one. You can see that new one, and it's a little deceiving from the angles, but I'm telling you, there's very minimal difference. All of the bodies, now that I have the bodies apart, all of the bodies, obviously they're well used, but there's no deformation in the lips, there's no cracking on the spine. Everything looks just fine as far as how these have held up after use. So a lot of great questions that came from that video as far as the mags, how they would continue to hold up, how they look once we take them apart. So I'm very, very happy with these mags. Actually, this one has a date code of 02. So this is over 20 years old on this particular one. This one has a date code of 2004, and this one's also 2004. So these mags are, again, very old, but they're holding up just fine. One thing I will share is that mags are a perishable item. You should not get attached to your mags. Yes, you should number them, keep track of them, take care of them, replace springs as necessary, but magazines will get damaged, and when they do get damaged, it's okay to replace them. Now, I understand some states you might not have the ability to do that as easy, and depending on what legislation comes up in our future, that might be more of a hot topic as far as magazine repair. But generally speaking, if you can buy them cheap, stack them deep, that's the way to go. And they are perishable. They will get damaged. They won't last forever. They're designed to be replenished and replaced. So don't get too attached to your mags, especially if they start giving you issues. I hope that answers a lot of follow-up questions from that how long can you leave mags loaded for video. Again, that video did really well for us. I'm hoping this one does just the same because it helps answer questions about how well these mags can hold up. Now, hopefully in 20 years from now, you can check back and we can do something similar with some PMags. But Magpul does have a lot of engineering behind their products, and they say that theirs can hold up just fine as well. I can't testify to that, but I do want to trust but verify. So hopefully in the future we'll be able to do something very similar. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. We have our 100,000 subscriber giveaway coming up. If you have any questions, you can send us a question to the email address shown below. That's theqa@gunsandtactics.com. And at the end of the month, I answer your questions, plus we give away a prize. And for regular viewers, or if you are just generous and you want to support the channel, the best way is through our Patreon, or you can do the super thanks thing in the YouTube section below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and have a great day.